Good evening and welcome to Spooky Southcoast. Tim Weisberg, along with science advisor Matt Moniz. Good evening, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tim. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. It's been a while since we've been on the air together. Between all the stuff you've been doing, and last week we took the night off for the premiere of America's Bermuda Triangle on Destination America, and now here we are. And then next week, I don't know if we'll be together. Are you going to go out in the field for the Triangle show this year? Or are you going to be here in the studio?
Where would you like me to be?
Well, we'll figure that out. We have a whole week.
Yeah.
So, right. And for those of you out there who are participating in the Bridgewater Triangle show, those of you who want to be out in the field, and we still have room for more people because we're trying a different format this way. The only catch is that you have to be willing to periscope from out where you are. Moniz, you would be exempt from periscoping if you decide to go out in the field. But all the teams that are involved.
I have a submarine.
Well, but we don't want to put it in the middle of the Hockomock. There's too many fish. So what we're going to try and do is bring live video from out in the field as well as audio call-ins. So as long as you're willing to at least give that a try, then we can work it out so that you could be out there as part of the show next week. But I'll be having more information about that tomorrow for those that are interested. Tonight we're going to have the big return of a spooky crew family member from the very beginning. He's going to be joining us in just a little while. Christopher Balzano will make his return to the show, coming up a little bit later on. He'll let us know what he's up to, and we have some plans. I'll drop the bomb now. He's back. He's going to be back and involved with the show, so we'll talk to him about that. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on the state of the paranormal coming up a little bit later on as well. I don't know about you, Moniz. I know you've been all over the place. I know you've been doing a lot of different things, but it's only heating up. It's about to get a whole lot busier for you. We have so many things that are going on, but I want to make mention here because for months we teased on this show about a big event that we were planning with the station. We were planning this huge, huge event that we were going to be announcing. We kept teasing, kept saying we were going to announce it, and we were telling people to follow us on Twitter, which you can at SpookySC. We were telling people to talk about the show using the hashtag SpookyLive. We were telling people to watch on Spooky TV at SpookySouthcoast.com every week because sooner or later we were going to have this huge announcement. And we made mention of it on the last show, like a little bit of a tease.
Yeah.
It went on sale the next day through social media. And now this is our first chance to talk about it on the air. And it's sold out already.
That's a problem. Why?
Well, I mean, it's a problem in terms of we've been teasing it. Now nobody, now people who are listening in other parts of the country or weren't on social media didn't realize, but it's already sold out. It's Face Your Fears Night at Fort Tabor. It's happening October 17th. It's being put on by Fun 107, but they've brought on Legend Trips to come on board and help them put on a great night of paranormal investigation. So basically, if you've ever done a Legend Trips event before, then this is going to be exactly like we would run it. The only difference is we did it through the station. So instead of it being a a Legend Trips event, it's a Fun 107 event. But essentially, Legend Trips will be involved in this. I'll be there, Jeff will be there, Moniz will be there, Andy will be there, Stephanie's going to be there. So we'll all be there to make sure that this event is run the way that you have come to expect from Legend Trips. So we put it up on the Fun 107 Facebook page. And I really think that, between that and Twitter, and then, of course, promoting it on my own personal Facebook, and I put it out on the Legend Trips and the Spooky South Coast Facebook and Twitter, but just through social media alone, we sold this event out. There are a very select few tickets left that we've reserved for giveaways. But we're going to make you earn these tickets. We're not just going to say caller 5, call up, and you get $210 worth of tickets to this event. We're going to make you work for it. So stay tuned to fun107.com and to wbsm.com, as well as the Facebook pages for each show, for each station, and for the Facebook page for the show. And when we have the announcement, then you'll have the opportunity to try and win these tickets because people are going crazy for this. There's folks that were waiting to have the chance to buy some tickets, and they missed their chance because they had to wait, And now it's gone. It's sold out. I've never seen anything sell out that fast. And so, the station's excited about it because it shows them that people want to go out and do this stuff, which is good for us because it means that, they'll give us more Saturday nights off to go and do more of them.
Well, what I'm excited about is that the museum gets more money to stay open
The
again.
museum, and there'll be the benefit of bringing, because, I've had the benefit of seeing some of the folks who are coming by watching, who's posting about it on social media and everything. And I can tell you that, it's not just the typical Legend Trips crowd. We are getting people from all over. I think there's like 3 or 4 or 5 different New England states represented from that are coming to this. So if we're pulling 5 out of 6, you know what I mean? That's not too bad. I'm sure Connecticut's the only one that's not on board because, they're sometimes they can be jerks. I'm just kidding. We love our Connecticut audience, but but I think 5 out of the 6 states, so that you're drawing a pretty good radius there. People that want to come and check out this fort, people that have never been there before, they're going to come and experience it and the wonderful, just the entire park, spend the whole day there, and they're going to come and they're going to love it and they're going to come back. It might not be for an event, but they're going to come back for something, and hopefully they'll come back and do some more investigations with us. But at the very least, they've come and they've experienced the history of the Southcoast. They've experienced the beauty of the Southcoast. So this is a great ambassadorship for this area too, as well, because it's going to be such an interesting and diverse crowd. It's not going to be, usually with Legend Trips we have paranormal investigators, and we have people that want to be paranormal investigators, or at least are thinking about it. With this, we have people that are just intrigued by the possibility. I've seen people who are hardened skeptics, people who are true believers. It's going to be a great cross mix of all of that. So I'm pretty excited about seeing who is actually going to be who's going to be the most afraid that night. Is it going to be the newbies? Or is it going to be some of the more seasoned people that are like, oh, this is more than I was expecting, when they're in Milliken, in the middle of Milliken, and all these noises are happening and everything. So that event is sold out. We do have a couple of other events that we have on sale that we, are running with our Legend Trips events. We have the USS Salem, which is this coming Friday night. That ticket is available. There's still some available. You go to legendtrips.com, you can get yours. And we just announced this week that if you want to stay on the ship, you can get a bunk. So you buy your ticket for $99. You get dinner, you get lectures, you get hours of guided investigation with the Legend Trips crew. But then for an additional $45 plus tax, you can stay on the ship. You get a bunk, and you just have to bring your own pillow and sleeping bag. But you can sleep exactly where the sailors would have slept on that ship. And I can tell you that last year, or the last time that we did this event, maybe half the people went to sleep, and the rest of the people just kept investigating. It's like they just paid an additional $45 to be able to stay until morning, which, a lot of them were happy just to do that. And people have been purchasing bunks all week and saying, I'm not even going to sleep in it. So, because I tell them, bring your own sleeping bag and pillow. No, I'm not. I'm just buying the bunk so I can keep investigating. So, so you have that opportunity. Just go to legendtrips.com. We also announced a Spooky Southcoast branded event. It won't be a Legend Trips event because Jeff's out of town, so we're going to run it as a Spooky Southcoast event. But we will be investigating the Ferring Tavern and the 3 other historic buildings in Wareham, right around the little Wareham Historical District there. That's coming up on October 3rd. So if you're going to the Insane Inflatable at UMass Dartmouth in the morning on Saturday, October 3rd, go out there, have some fun, bounce around, run around on all the obstacles. It's going to be a great day over there at UMass Dartmouth. And then afterwards, you could come on by and you can investigate 4 different historic haunted buildings with the Spooky Southcoast crew. And it's going to be, the same way we run Legend Trips. We're going to use the same format. And it'll hopefully be a nice little boost for the Wareham Historical Society's year as well, because I think that these are 2 places that people have been waiting to get into. They've been waiting to get into the Ferring Tavern. They've been waiting to get into Fort Tabor. And this is kind of the only way they can do it is through these events. And I'm not, doing that to say we are exclusive and we're keeping people out of these places. But both venues have come to trust us and work with us. And so they want to stick with us. So we are honored that they feel that way. And we are honored that we can keep allowing you folks at home that are listening to be able to investigate these places.
I love both places. I mean, the fort is awesome. I mean, it's beautiful there. The park that they did is absolutely gorgeous, and I love the way that they, try and keep, the batteries as up as best as they can.
And I don't know, you haven't been there lately, but they have done a ton of work on some of the back batteries on the way to Milliken.
Oh, really?
They've been cleared out. they've all been they've placed railings across everything. The Army Corps of Engineers came down and put railings up all over the place, so it's a lot more safe and secure. And that's all going to be part of the event.
Okay.
So instead of in the past where you could only go into the two Walcott and Clark, I think it is,
Yeah.
over next to the fort, now they're going to all be part of the event. So you'll be going down and investigating along the way. Instead of walking from the fort all the way down to Milliken, you'll be investigating along the way. So it should be a pretty intriguing night. We also have, very quickly, we still have some tickets available for the Evening of Ghost Stories and New England Legends that we're putting on Thursday, October 29th, which is happening at the Stadium Theater in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Myself, Jeff Belanger, Andrew Lake, and Carl Johnson on the stage, featuring the photography of Frank Grace. You know his Trig photography from all of our Legend Trips events, these gigantic, creepy photos that are going to be behind us as we tell these ghost stories. And they will be new stories. There'll be some old favorites, but there'll be some new stories as well if you saw the show in May, to the sellout crowd in Rhode Island then. So this will be a chance to see kind of the updated version of it. We're going to tweak it each time we put it on, assuming there'll be more, if people don't hate us after this one, but the response was great after the first one, so I think we'll be doing all right. And so there's still some tickets available for that. You get those at the Stadium Theater website, stadiumtheater.com. You'll be able to get those tickets. And all that's going on. I'm going to have up on SpookySouthcoast.com my calendar of lectures that I have going on. I'll be at all different libraries all across the South Coast throughout October. So I'll be giving a variety of different lectures, and they're all free, so you can come on out and check them out. You can bring the family. And the idea at almost every one of these libraries this year, instead of just going and giving a talk and going home, they're actually requesting that I stay a little bit later and I bring my ghost hunting gear and we take the people around the library and show them how it all works. So it seems like, almost every library is on board with that plan. So you'll have the chance to actually get your hands wet a little bit in the paranormal world if you come to one of those. So many opportunities for you to get closer to the other side coming up. So, and speaking of getting closer to the other side, let's bring on the person that I know is closer to it than anybody because she sees it and deals with it all the time. Our usual co-host who is taking the night off, Stephanie Burke. How are you, Stephanie?
Good. How are you, Tim?
Oh, doing well. Spooktacular.
Of course.
I'd be a little bit more spooktacular if you were here, but, you've had a busy day and a busy weekend.
I have. Sorry. I feel bad. I wish I was there.
You know what this is, though, Moniz? This is actually, she's big-timing us now that she's been on a national television commercial.
I would never. You know that.
Which, by the way, came out amazing, and it was just a great commercial. I've heard a lot of positive buzz from it, and I know that it's been selling some DVDs of the Bridgewater Triangle documentary, so job well done.
I hope so. Aaron did an amazing job putting it all together, especially with the amount of bloopers I had.
Now, that was, that whole experience of seeing that on television and the reaction that people have had, it's been overwhelming this week. I think more people are talking about the Bridgewater Triangle now than I've ever seen.
I think so, too. I agree with that.
Now, and of course, we had some fun. We couldn't even see the TVs where we were. We were streaming live on Spooky TV and periscoping, and
we were having a good time in our own little corner with all the paranormal people.
I may have danced. There may be video evidence that I danced.
I believe there is somewhere. It might have made its way to YouTube. I'm not sure.
I was kind of just busting a small move, not a large, not even a full size move, but just kind of a mini move.
You made a motion.
But you didn't do the worm.
I did not do the worm, but Candace did a fantastic worm. It was like top 5 worms of all time.
She's amazing.
So we will certainly, of course, be letting people know when there will be rebroadcasts of America's Bermuda Triangle. But, of course, we highly recommend that you go and get the full documentary, the Bridgewater Triangle documentary, which you can get whether you get it through the website, thebridgewatertriangledocumentary.com, or whether you order it online and watch it on Vimeo or other streaming services. You have to watch it by next Saturday night because we're going to have our annual Bridgewater Triangle show.
That's right, we are.
And we may have a special guest for that. We're still working on finalizing everything, but we may have a special guest. But speaking of special opportunities, Stephanie, we've been asking people for the last couple of weeks to help you out with a campaign that you were doing. And so why don't you give us an update on your quest to get the scholarship to continue studying with James Van Praagh?
So I asked everyone, I believe it was last week, to help me to go onto YouTube and to vote for my video. I was going for a mediumship scholarship with James Van Praagh. If you don't know who that is, you need to look him up. He is absolutely amazing and probably the most famous and well-known medium that there is out there. So I was down to the wire in getting likes and votes, and he announced actually a few days ago that Candace and I actually both won a full, complete scholarship to his school. So thank you so much, everyone that is listening, that will listen later on, for your help. Everybody that reached out to me, I will give you a shout out. Everybody that wrote me an email and everything else, I promise I'll have my list next week. But I'm not there tonight, so I was a little unprepared. But thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it so much. You guys helped me in a way that you could never imagine. This is a huge opportunity for me, and I'm so grateful.
And what's funny about it is, you were worried. You were a little bit concerned. You were how you get sometimes, where sometimes you second guess yourself a little bit about things. I'm trying to help
Right.
you overcome that. But I kept saying, don't worry about it. The two of you have this. You've got it. And I just felt like that was the way it was going to go. And I remember I was watching Candace on Periscope, and all of a sudden the broadcast just ends all of a sudden because Stephanie called her to let her know. And
She declined my call, too.
she declined your call?
Yes,
She picked Periscope over you?
Yeah.
We created a monster,
Yes, we did. A Periscope monster.
Yes.
I was calling her because I had gotten a notification that James had posted, because the way that we found out that we won is he was posting it to social media. So his Facebook page was supposed to have an update with the list of names and the videos. And I saw it maybe, I want to say 15 minutes after it was posted, and immediately just picked up the phone and I called her, and she got so afraid, feeling my energy from the other end, that she hung up on me. So I had to send her a text message yelling at her, and she called me back, and she goes, I don't want to hear it. I'm nervous, because she was just as scared as I was. She was doubting herself just as much as I was, because we were up against the first class that we took with him was with like hundreds of people. We were on live conference calls with like 500 plus people.
Wow.
So this contest was open to everybody, and that was just the first round of people. There's been more people that have signed up since then. So in order to do the actual application for the scholarship, you had to be active in his first course. So there's thousands of people out there that had this opportunity. And it was down to the wire of about like 15 people, and we were part of that, and we were really scared. We didn't think that we had a shot because we doubt ourselves, obviously, but it's a scary thing because it's a huge, huge, huge opportunity.
Well, and just very quickly, let people know exactly, what will be involved in moving on with the studying of this. Is it going to be a more personalized, there won't be 500 people involved in this class?
I don't know how many people will be on the class. It's open to anyone. It is extremely expensive to do, so obviously that weeds out a lot of people taking it, at least right away.
But it'll be more intensive study. It'll be more intensive perfecting of your craft.
The first course was a psychic intuitive course, and it was very intensive, very overwhelming, because the workload is serious. You have to be serious in order to take the course, and it is an amazing course. But it's basically James's 30-plus years of experience packed into one online course, but there's X amount of lessons, and in each lesson there's 15 videos, and there's an entire chapter, and you have to do homework and study and, things like that. So the mediumship course, I've heard, is a little bit more intensive. It's a little bit more in-depth, because the way it normally works is pretty much everybody's psychic, but not everybody's a medium. So it's going to be a little bit more intense. I'm a little nervous, but I'm really excited to do it.
Well, we are very proud of you, and we look forward to seeing you develop your gifts even more, and seeing the results of working so closely with James. And also, it means there's probably a good chance we're getting him back on the show.
Yes, I hope so. That's really, really exciting.
Yeah, he did love us. I mean, he did say he would be more than happy to come back. So we'll have to work that out. But not before then, because we don't want to make you nervous. Thinking that you have to talk to the teacher on the weekend.
That's okay. I would absolutely love every minute of it. And the best part about it all is I get to do it with one of my best friends. So we get to study together and do everything together, and we're each other's accountability and support throughout the entire thing. So it's an amazing opportunity that the two of us got picked together.
And we can announce right now that we're actually going to have Candace Dalton joining us on the show.
Yes, we are, September 26th.
So it'll finally be her first appearance. We've only had Stephanie on now for over a year, and we've only known Stephanie for like 6 years. So, but
Right.
that's all right. Well, finally, it took this long to bring on one of her best friends. I understand. That's all right. As long as I'm still one of your other best friends, we can just go with that.
As long as we're still friends after me missing the show tonight,
Of
then we're
course,
good.
always.
All right.
No, you get some rest, and congratulations again, and we look forward to having you back on the show next week.
Awesome. Thank you. Miss you guys, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, have a great night.
All right. Bye.
And speaking of thanking people, we want to thank everybody that donated to the Spooky Southcoast GoFundMe. You know, we sound like a pledge drive here tonight with everything,
Really?
but people have been helping us out and showing us a lot of support for a variety of different things. But, you know, we run this show, the Spooky TV, the live cameras, all of that stuff. We run all of that on our own, out of our own pocket. And there's a reason for that. Because if we break it, it's only our own equipment we don't have to worry about. And so, you know, this right here, I'd much rather, like, break my own stuff than somebody else's. So we try to have our own equipment with us. But the real reason why we have our own is so that when we go and do something, you know, if we're at an event, like last week when I was streaming live from Christopher's, and when we're doing all that stuff, you know, we have our own stuff. It's a little bit easier. And we've asked in the past for people to help us out. The Spooky Southcoast audience bought us a new laptop to be able to run Spooky TV, and we have the web cameras that they helped us with. And so we said, you know, the next kind of step of evolution would be to bring in a GoPro camera. And so I asked folks for some donations. Now, it's not like I'm asking for a handout. Every year I get Christmas and birthday presents from family, and they all get me the same thing. They all get me gift cards to the electronics box store there.
Yep.
And so I save them, and I save them up, and I save them up, and I save them up until it's something that I want to buy. So I'm putting out like half of the cost in gift cards, and I just asked for some more donations. And I want to thank Matt. I think it's Blystein. I don't want to say it wrong.
Yep.
I will find out for sure, you know, exactly how we can give him a little bit more of a plug, because he is a videographer, and he does fantastic work. He did some promotional stuff for Legend Trips on the last event.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And I want to thank him for making a very significant donation for that.
And becoming a dad.
Yes, that's true. He did become a dad as well. That's probably more important in his life than helping us open. And then, of course, we got some other donations from other folks as well. So thank you to everybody that donated. We are very close to being able to purchase that GoPro, and we will start working it into the Spooky Southcoast broadcast. So that's just another way for you to experience it, because I'm all about, like, breaking down the fourth wall for people and letting people see what's going on in here. I'm all about that. I'm all about showing you what goes on in the studio, because I think that a lot of folks find it fascinating. I do. I love watching, you know, behind-the-scenes radio stuff, and I love watching how it all works. And I think it's another way of being able to let people see us and what we do.
Breaks down some of the mystique of how things happen.
I think so, too. But there's also a little bit of an ulterior motive as well. I would love to see this show exist also as a cable access show. You know, where we take the video and we put it out there to the cable stations, to the community access stations. We say, here you go. Here's a show, an hour and a half, 2 hours every week that you could run and help spread the word of the paranormal and help educate people and inform people in that way as well. And I think it would be a great way to do it. And it would also help, you know, in terms of spreading the history and the paranormal history of this area. So it's going to almost be also an ambassadorship for this area in that regard as well. So
you might want to talk to Jeff Belanger, see if we can get it uploaded to PEG
Oh,
Media.
yeah. No, we've got it all set up to do that. But just the problem is we need to...
Logistics.
We need to up our game a little bit here in what we're doing, which is why we want to bring in the GoPro. So, and I'm working with Aaron Cadju from the Bridgewater Triangle documentary to find the best way to do that. So pretty soon we'll have hopefully an upgraded and better Spooky TV. We kid around. You know, we blame all the technical issues on everything else, but it's all just shtick. It's all our fault. It really is. We try to pass it off, and maybe that's not the best way to do it. It's all just shtick. Really, the problem is that we are operating on a wing and a prayer every week in how we do things. So Aaron's going to come in and help us legitimize and professionalize, if that's the word, how we do Spooky TV. So looking forward to that, looking forward to working with him, and looking forward to giving you a better product. Absolutely. And, of course, but the key is, you know, it doesn't matter. On Saturday night, you should just be sitting down in front of the radio, turning on WBSM, turning on WBSM.com with a Radio Pop app on your phone, whoever you listen to the show, listening live and interacting with us, calling in at 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420, because it's great that you all listen worldwide on podcast all week long. And new people are finding the show every day in all corners of the world, and I love that. But this is our time together. Saturday nights from 10 to midnight, this is our little time together. And we want you to be interactive with us. Call into the show, tweet the show, use the hashtag SpookyLive on Twitter, and we'll be able to see it. And just so many different ways of getting in touch with us. Please do so. But we also welcome you during the course of the week as well to email us, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com, or tweet us at SpookySC. Let us know who you are, where you're listening from, and how long you've been listening. And we will make sure we give you a shout-out on a future edition of the show. All right, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back on the other side, we'll be joined by our guest tonight, Christopher Balzano, making his return to the show. And it's not just a one-time thing either. So we'll get into all of that, and we'll get his thoughts on a variety of different paranormal topics over the next the next hour and a half anyway. But you're going to be able to get his opinions and his thoughts for many hours to come because he is back with the show. So we'll be back in just a moment here on the new 1420 WBSM. It is Spooky South Coast. Hey, it's Saturday night. What else are you going to do?
As you're hearing this ad, so are thousands of potential customers. Advertising on WBSM works. But don't take our word for it. Listen to what this satisfied customer had to say.
Hi, this is Kim Kamara. When you're in the market for a bicycle, visit Yesteryear Cyclery in New Bedford. We specialize in all kinds of bicycles, sales and service. If you're looking to market your business, I recommend WBSM. If you plan to grow your business in the next year, choose WBSM. Today's marketplace demands more frequency than ever to break through the clutter. And targeting the right customers that have that money to spend is very important to our business, and WBSM brings us those customers. We recently ran a campaign targeting a single bicycle model, and our sales of that one bike increased over 35% in 1 month. We noticed the difference in phone calls and store traffic when we advertise with WBSM.
Let us help you grow your business. For more information on advertising on WBSM, call 508-999-6690. That's 508-999-6690. Or find us online at WBSM.com.
Today, more than ever, Americans need a means to protect their life savings. Birch Gold Group offers peace of mind for your nest egg through a rollover to an IRA backed by physical gold. Take advantage of the long-term stability that gold provides by investing in a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, the precious metal IRA specialists. Call Birch Gold Group today at 888-999-5191 and receive their free information kit on gold. Call 888-999-5191. That's 888-999-5191.
Business owners, did you know that summer is a great time to hire the best people? With your competitors on vacation, there's less competition for quality candidates. But posting your job in one place isn't enough to find them. And when you're short-staffed, there's no time to deal with the dozens of different job sites. Until now. Thanks to ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites with a single click. Just post once, and within 24 hours, watch your candidates roll in to ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. Plus, be instantly matched to candidates from over 4 million resumes. ZipRecruiter has been used by over 400,000 businesses, and you can try it right now for free. Try ZipRecruiter and get your perfect candidate this summer before they go to somebody else. Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/talkradio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/talkradio. Again, ZipRecruiter.com/talkradio.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 877-287-0598. That's 877-287-0598. Again, 877-287-0598. Call now.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-319-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-319-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-319-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
Welcome back to Spooky Southcoast. Tim WEISBERG, along with science advisor Matt Moniz, the silent assassin Matt Costa, and Stephanie Burke, and Lauren Allison, all off tonight. But we'll have most of the gang together next week for our annual Bridgewater Triangle Investigation Show, which should be pretty exciting as we move into the Periscope age, where people will actually be streaming video live from the different locations where they are at. And we're going to finalize everything for all the teams and the investigators that are interested. We're going to finalize everything over the next couple of days, but I can tell you that I've already seen some of these teams out doing practice periscopes, and they seem to have a pretty good handle on how it works. So it's pretty easy. I mean, if you can take a picture on your cell phone, and if you know how to tweet, you can use Periscope. And actually, you don't even really know how to tweet because it'll send out the tweet automatically for you if you tie it into your Twitter. But it's a lot of fun. It's very easy to do. And if you don't have the Periscope app, be sure to download it by next Saturday night, because then you'll be able to see all of these as they're happening. Of course, we're going to be doing the show here on the station, and we're going to be having the groups call in and talk to them the same way that we always do. But this will just be an added benefit for you, the listener, if you want to, click over while you're watching on your phone, while you're listening on the radio, and you'll be able to see what's going on out in the field as we're talking to the people. Should be more interactive than ever. I'm very excited about it. Hopefully we have good weather for next Saturday night. I think it's supposed to be pretty nice. So we should be all set. Because, there's been years that we've scheduled the Triangle Show in hurricanes and
20 below weather,
monsoons and what have you. So, but speaking of the Bridgewater Triangle, of course, that helped us in the very early days of this show connect into the local paranormal community. And one of our very first guests and one of our longest-standing friends in the paranormal world joins us now on the phone, Christopher Balzano. Good evening, Chris. How are you? It seems like I was just with you last Saturday night.
I know. I'm already getting sick of you. I'm telling you.
Again already? It doesn't take very long.
I don't know if this is a vision of things to come, but I call in, a horrible thunderstorm starts, and all the power goes out in my house. So we another great Spooky Southcoast interview going on here.
So we have you as long as your battery holds out, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I fully charged up for tonight.
Okay. Well, of course. And speaking of being fully charged up, I mean, you are ready to go. We are, you're back with the show. I mean, there's no other way to put it. We finally sucked you back in. Just when you thought you were out, we pulled you back in.
Yeah. I mean, if you're willing to have me, I mean, there's a lot of good work still to be done, and I've been seeing what you guys have been doing, and kind of on the edges, being like, these are people that are doing it right, and I want to be involved with them again. So I'm looking to get back to work.
Well, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a mutual admiration society here. I just wanted it to be all about me. So in talking to you, because you always have a very good idea of having an outside perspective, even though you're on the inside of the show, you're able to give us kind of the perspective that listeners have of it. And I think that, we've had to evolve over the years. We've had to change. And you and I have had many hours of conversation about where, different directions of where the show can go. I mean, do you feel like, from an outside perspective, do you feel like we are in a good place right now with the way that we're doing things, with some of the changes that we've done?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the changes that you've done, the technology and the interactiveness that you guys are bringing to it. And I'm interested to see how some different kinds of guests will react to that, and how we can kind of maybe take that to the next level and revisit some topics that might have been neglected, and kind of bring them up to this technological point and this kind of outreach point you guys are at right now.
Because one of the issues that I have, one of the feelings, the self-criticisms that I have, is I feel that we've gotten away too much from what it was that drew people's interest in the show in the first place so many years ago, almost 10 years ago now, is I think we're getting away from some of the, telling a story and sharing information and sharing, I think, and certainly the listeners can let us know what they think, and they can tweet us at SpookySE, they can email us, spookycrew@SpookySouthcoast.com. We all get those, even Chris. And they can let us know if it's what you want to see, but I feel like we've gotten too much about being about the paranormal community, about the paranormal quote-unquote field. I think we've gotten too much about trying to be ombudsman of what goes on in the paranormal, and I don't know if every listener wants to hear that. I don't know if they want to hear all the nuts and bolts of how it works. I think some people, and I've been getting a lot of emails and messages on this lately, some people just love it when we're talking about a particular case, and we tell them a story about a particular haunting or a particular abduction or what have you. I think that's what people want now, which, we can get into a little bit later on. That's kind of the trend overall. But that's what I want you to help us with here with the show, is keeping us grounded back in the roots of what got us on the air and what kept us on the air in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been, since day one with you guys, something happens, some kind of case comes up, some kind of topic comes up, and I want to know what Tim WEISBERG thinks about it, and I want to see what Matt Moniz is going to add to it. And now, especially with Stephanie, I want to see her perspective on these things. And so, I think that there's definitely more room for the story. I think there's more room for topics or types of things where maybe we bring, especially with the technology, multiple guests in. I was thinking about even the Bridgewater Triangle show, thinking like, wow, wouldn't it be great if we just had a Bridgewater Triangle show in addition to the investigations? That was debates about it. That was, what's the real triangle, what's not the real triangle, and that kind of discussion. And that's, that's what I think a lot of listeners, from feedback I get, they like that. They like that part of it because they like you guys as personalities. They like you guys as opinionated figures, and they want to hear what you guys have to say about something. So in addition to bringing on, guests who might be new to the audience, it's also about, then how do those guests in particular interact with you guys?
Well, I mean, I'm a fan myself of hearing about the stories, hearing about the people, hearing about the cases, and I think that sometimes I almost feel like there's enough. Sometimes I take for granted how much the audience is along this ride with us, and I take for granted how much the audience knows, and sometimes I have a habit of being, I don't want to say advanced, because I'm not trying to say that I know more about the paranormal than the average person, but I think sometimes we overlook some of the basics for people that are new and involved, and I never want the listener to have to try to keep up with what we're doing. I want the listener to be along for the ride and not feel like it's ever getting away from them. So, I think that there's probably some value in being able to go back and do some basic revisiting of some topics and do some basic breakdown and analysis of things, even things that we talked about 10 years.
Balzano breakdown?
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, that's the thing is like, you watch a television show like, Breaking Bad, for example. Everything that happened because you're going to watch from episode 1 all the way to the final episode. And you know what's going on, and they don't have to keep rehashing things, and they don't have to keep giving you flashbacks to remind you of things. But then you watch a show like, Ghost Hunters, for example, a reality show. They keep going back and emphasizing certain things. So if they talk about an EVP in season 4, they're still explaining to you, EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena. And I think sometimes we've gotten away from kind of going back and explaining some of this stuff to people. So please, Chris, I'm asking you to make sure that we never try to go beyond, and we never take for granted who it is that's listening.
Right, and also, keep the eye on, in those early days of Art Bell and those early days of what you guys were doing, it was, wait a minute, that exists? It was introducing things that people had never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And ideas people had never heard of, and even kind of exposing people who were along for the ghost aspect of things to like, oh, wait a minute, you mean there's conspiracies with this and conspiracies with that? So I think, it's about making sure that they're along for the ride, and then kind of also taking them a little bit further than they might have expected to go.
and of course you mentioned Art Bell, and I feel like, in a way, I feel like we've made it to some degree, but in a way, I also feel like we have to prove ourselves all over again, because this show, of course, is part of the Dark Matter Radio Network. They rebroadcast this show on Art Bell's Dark Matter Radio Network, and now that Art is back with his Midnight in the Desert show on that network, we have to kind of. I want to follow in his footsteps. I never mind. I've never once said I would ever want to break out of the shadow of Art Bell. If people want to say that we work in the shadow of Art Bell, I would be honored. And so I want to make sure that we are living up to that, because it's you just have to up your game, and it's a natural thing when he's back and when he's doing what he does, and he's so great at it, and the show's been going so well. I want to make sure that the audience that's listening to him at midnight our time, or 9 o'clock time his time, whatever. I want to make sure that they don't feel like there's a drop off in between listening to Midnight in the Desert and listening to Spooky Southcoast.
Right, and this is a great time for that, because from what I gather from just friends I have and scanning what's going on, and a lot of the interest in paranormal radio has waned, as people have kind of had their trip, and they, were successful for maybe a little while, and then they, all right, well, we're not going to do this anymore, and they kind of fell off. But it really is the time for, like, the all-stars, like you guys are, to kind of have their day again. Not that you ever didn't have a day.
Well, and there is an oversaturation to some degree of people out there talking about the paranormal. There's a lot of, we'll call them radio shows, but they're internet shows that have gained in popularity. And there are some that are, I would say you could throw that on regular radio right now. But there's a lot of them that aren't. And I always want to make sure that we can stand apart. I'm not saying that we have to say that we're better, but I want to at least just make sure that we stand apart and that we have our own voice in that, and that we never lose the fact. First, I can't say this without sounding self-congratulatory, but we're one of the few that have been around this long. It's pretty much us and Darkness Radio, and maybe Jim Harold. Maybe we were talking about this last week.
Night Watch.
Night Watch, and the X Zone with Rob McConnell. There's only like a handful of shows, Chris, that have been around for as long as we have been. And sometimes, you can look at that and say, wow, they're doing something right. And sometimes you can look at that and say, they're really just kind of hanging on here. Right. And I don't ever want to just be hanging on.
No, and I don't think that you need to settle for that, because the driving force is still the creative crew that you guys got there, and that crew is enough to carry you. So I fully believe that this is a really excellent time for me to re-enter the crew. And mental note, or just going out there, Stephanie Burke is not going away. I am not replacing her just the way she did not replace me. It's one of those things where I'm hoping to add to this new synergy you guys got going on.
Well, and that's, of course, we're going to talk with you about what you've been up to and what you're what your thoughts are on the paranormal world in general coming up in the next hour. But, we were talking about some of those rumors last week, and Stephanie mentioned that she heard from a lot of people that, either you left because she joined or she pushed you out, or, all these things, and none of that happened. Long story short, if I remember correctly, you had to switch. You were an English teacher, and you had to make the switch to being a math teacher, and that changed everything that you did in terms of how you, the time that you had, because all of a sudden you're basically this huge shift in your career, and so the decision was made, I just don't have the time to put into that anymore. And there was quite a few months when we didn't have either you or Stephanie involved in the show, and then it just became natural that Stephanie become part of it, because she's another resource that I was always going to get opinions on the show, and she had a voice that we were missing in that female perspective.
Right. And, that probably wasn't entirely truthful on my part. My voice cracking there. I mean, it was more of just me being burnt out and not knowing what my place was, and I probably used the math thing as a little bit more of a crutch, sorry. But, I thought that, what more did I have to contribute to this field at that point, which I guess we can talk about a little bit more later. But it was, I had to step aside and I stopped listening. And then actually I started listening again when Stephanie came on. I wanted nothing more than for you guys to see and for her to succeed. And I love the way that it's gone with her. So, yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, if you're looking at it from an outsider's perspective, it does seem like the two things happened at the same time, but they didn't. And she's a great addition. We actually met for the first time, actually physically, like seeing each other last weekend. But I've been following her and the work that she did with Tiffany, and then kind of onto you guys, and I'm a big fan.
Well, I can tell you this much: the fact that people actually thought enough about this show to have a conspiracy theory about it felt pretty good, actually. I was like, wow, people are actually have this buzz about what actually went down with Spooky Southcoast. But
I know it was even crazy to think that anyone enjoyed listening to me and being part of the show enough to actually reach out to her and kind of get in her digital face about it. That was very bizarre to me to hear.
You'll know it's a true conspiracy theory when we have our own thread on AboveTopSecret.com. Just throw out a plug for those guys. But that's to me, that's I'll give you a full. We have about 2 minutes here before the news, but I'll give you a full rundown from my perspective as being in the executive producer role, we'll call it, of the show, the person who tries to steer the ship to some degree of what direction we're going to go in. Sometimes I just feel like I take it for granted, and I know that I can come in here every Saturday night and talk about the paranormal, and to me that's enough. But I want to make sure that it's the most entertaining thing that it can be for people, the most informative thing that it can be for people. So that's why I'm always looking for other perspectives. Moniz, you've been here pretty much since the beginning. Matt Costa, he's been here since day one. I have the sense that both of you kind of get the same way that I am about it, where it's been here, it's always here, and we know that we're always going to be talking about the paranormal even if the show doesn't exist. But that's why I've always liked to have other voices and other people involved, and I think that as this has grown, I'm trying to involve the voices of the people that I take their opinion on things, and I care about what they think about things.
I'm amazed at how much you've grown in the paranormal, and how much you've.
It's all those donuts and stuff that I eat after the show.
Pizza but I'm talking about you've broadened your palette on what's going on in the paranormal. Before you were just mainly interested in ghosts, but now you've expanded into all of the other sub aspects of the paranormal, is what ufology.
Well, I mean, because I've made the decision, and as many others, and I know that you have, Moni, is that you can't just pick one, because they all kind of lend themselves into each other. Which we can talk about all that and a whole lot more with Chris Balzano coming up in the next hour. We'll also take your calls at 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. And I can tell you, I'm kind of excited for the next hour, Chris, because, you and I, we talk about life. You know what I mean? We don't really talk about the paranormal.
Right.
We talk about, what goes on in the quote-unquote real world. And so I haven't really gotten your take on a lot of things in the paranormal world lately. And I know that you've been kind of, focused on other things. So now we're going to really do a Balzano breakdown of how he feels about how things have been going and what he sees as the future. We'll be back.
New Bedford News, New Bedford Talk. This is WBSM New Bedford, streaming worldwide on Radio Pub and WBSM.com.
From ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. The kids were living in a cave. Cops in Kansas City, Missouri were searching the caves on the city's east side, trying to find an auto theft chop shop. They found two kids, 4 and 6 years of age, shoeless, filthy, and living in a wooden shipping crate.
A deputy saw the 4-year-old was holding a cup of dry ramen noodles. The cup had dirt in it, and the child was eating with the child's hands. Now, deputies say the children informed them that they were living in the cave while, quote, Mima and Papa lived in a hotel.
ABC's Brian Johnson in Kansas City, the 24-year-old mother in custody, facing 2 counts of felony child endangerment. A wildfire burning near Cobb, California has quickly grown to 10,000 acres. 4 firefighters had to be hospitalized after being burned by the fire. They're listed in stable condition, all with second-degree burns. A wildfire burning across 2 counties southeast of Sacramento has destroyed 86 homes and 51 other structures, containment up to 15%. Residents of almost 3,000 homes have evacuated. Eric Ruthroff, one of them, he's not panicked about possibly losing his home.
I feel confident. We've got an engine sitting here. I've tried to keep a defensible space around my house, so hopefully it'll pay off.
Talk about economics on the presidential campaign trail. In Iowa, Republican frontrunner Donald Trump announced he'd be unveiling his tax plan in the next month or so.
We're going to lower taxes, especially for the middle class. We are going to make sure that my friends in the hedge fund business who make a fortune and pay virtually no tax, they are going to start paying taxes. They're going to start paying taxes.
Democrat Bernie Sanders was in South Carolina at historically black Benedict College, railing against what he calls institutional racism that he insists keeps people of color underemployed.
Wages in America are just too damn low.
You're listening to ABC News.
Own a piece of American history with this special offer from Blanchard & Company. In 1921, World War I was over. Babe Ruth was hitting home runs. The Tomb of the Unknowns was dedicated at Arlington National Cemetery to honor all who fought and died for our freedom. It was also the last year the United States minted the famous, historic Silver Morgan dollar. With an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Blanchard & Company would like to offer their listeners 10 1921 Silver Morgan dollars for only $26 each, including free shipping when you pay with a credit card. Silver Morgan dollars are America's most popular coin, and now you can own 10 historic 1921 Silver Morgan dollars for only $26 each, a total of $260 plus free shipping. Call Blanchard now to own your piece of history. 800-210-1225. Supplies are limited, so call now. 800-210-1225. That's 800-210-1225.
Major automakers have committed to making automatic emergency braking standard on all new vehicles.
When you go to buy a new car, it may have the latest feature, AEB, automatic emergency braking. 10 major automakers have signed on to make the feature a standard. Mark Rosekind, administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, made the announcement.
The industry, in this case, though, hasn't waited for regulation. They've decided to make a commitment that will save lives now and make it available to everyone.
They're calling this a new era in safety technology. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, Washington.
Ahead of Pope Francis's visit to the U.S., the Archdiocese of Miami and Habitat for Humanity are teaming up.
Volunteers in Miami are honoring the Pope and his visit to the U.S. by building a Pope Francis home. Construction for the house that will be for a family in need kicking off Saturday.
It's really to bring attention to the fact that Pope Francis is doing so much to put the emphasis back on the needy and to heed his call of action to put faith into action.
Mario Atacona, CEO for Habitat for Humanity in Greater Miami, says the joint project with the Archdiocese of Miami should be ready for a single mother in time for Christmas. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Sully is back home in Union Township, New Jersey. The 100-pound tortoise got out of its enclosure last Sunday and meandered more than a mile away from home before a motorist spotted it on the side of the road. Sully Schumann says the big tortoise was not hurt. This is ABC News.
My name is Ron LeGrand, and I personally bought hundreds of houses myself. Call 800-495-1836, 24 hours, and leave your information. I'll send the first 500 callers my hot new CD, Fortunes in Foreclosures, and my best-selling book to help you get started absolutely free. I'll show you how to build a six-figure income part-time with no previous experience and no license. Call 800-495-1836 and get my new book and CD free. It's 800-495-1836.
I'm Richard Cantu, ABC.
From ABC News Tech Trends, what exactly is a homebrew email server? There's been a lot of talk about emails sent from Hillary Clinton's private server while she served as Secretary of State. But what does that actually mean? ABC Technology editor Alyssa Newcomb.
When you think of servers, sometimes you think of just these big refrigerator-sized machines and blinking lights and wires.
Quite the contrary, she says.
We're talking about something that's probably no bigger than the size of a desktop computer.
And having a homebrew email server is simply a matter of privacy. Rather than bouncing your messages to, say, Google servers, a home server cuts out the middleman, keeping your message completely private. But before you go thinking about getting one for yourself, Newcomb says while they're relatively inexpensive to set up, they do require quite a bit of technological know-how and upkeep.
Constant software updates.
In short, they're not for everybody. With Tech Trends, I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Today, more than ever, Americans need a means to protect their life savings. Birch Gold Group offers peace of mind for your nest egg through a rollover to an IRA backed by physical gold. Take advantage of the long-term stability that gold provides by investing in a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, the precious metal IRA specialists. Call Birch Gold Group today at 888-999-5191 and receive their free information kit on gold. Call 888-999-5191. That's 888-999-5191.
This is a guided meditation on parenting. Find a relaxed position to let go of the time you left your daughter's blouse in the dryer too long and it shrunk 4 sizes, or when you donated her private diary to the public library. Deep breaths.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-319-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-319-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-319-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 877-287-0598. That's 877-287-0598. Again, 877-287-0598. Call now.
With CudaSign, paperless e-signing is a no-brainer for any business that requires legally binding signatures fast. That's because CudaSign offers everything you should expect from an electronic signature solution for just $1 per month. CudaSign cuts document turnaround time as much as 90%, thanks in part to its #1 rated mobile app. And CudaSign's secure cloud stores documents for on-demand tracking and retrieval, saving you even more time and money. Don't think twice. Get CudaSign now for just $1 per month. Go to CudaSign.com.
We are New Bedford, the new 1420 WBSM.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky Southcoast. Tim Weisberg, along with the science advisor Matt Moniz, the silent assassin Matt Costa, Stephanie Burke, and Lauren Allison, all with the night off. And I want to apologize if anybody just saw me on Spooky TV at SpookySouthcoast.com giving a little yawn. It's not the company. It's not the topic. It's the fact that I've slept like, what did I say, like 4.5 hours?
5 hours.
5 hours in the last, since Thursday morning at like 4:30 a.m. So I've basically been existing on a couple of naps here and there.
So you're going to be like this next week because we've got the Salem to go through and all you got the one.
Yeah, the best part about next week is when we come home from the Salem, I have enough time to basically just go and change my clothes because we're going to have been on the Salem all night, and I'm sure I'll be sweaty and gross. And then come here and do the radio show from 6 to 9. So that should be, I might be a little bit loopy next Saturday morning, but that's all right, because we'll have plenty of great things to talk about. If you haven't checked out the morning show, of course, it does stream live on WBSM.com and on the Radio Pup app. All you have to do is search for WBSM. You'll be able to hear it. It's not paranormal, but sometimes, you know, some of that stuff does seep through. We get some calls. Because some folks want to talk paranormal, but they just don't want to stay up on Saturday nights. You know, some of the folks are older and can't make it. But, of course, we want to talk to you at 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. And, of course, we have joining us on the line. He's making his return to Spooky South Coast for as long as his battery holds out tonight anyway. Chris Balzano. he is back. And do you want to assume the role of content director again, or do you want us to come up with a flashy new title for you?
No, I like that because it was so ambiguous. I wasn't quite sure what I was responsible for.
I'm not sure either. I just like the sound of it.
I know content. I am content director. And can I be like executive producer?
I don't know about that. That would make you my boss, and I don't know if I'm ready to give up that much kind of control.
All right. So, but just quickly, I mean, like, that's how I realized that how much of a Tim Weisberg fan I was not through listening to folk music, but rather listening to your Saturday morning show. And I realized just how much, like, wow, I want to know what Tim thinks about this topic and that topic. And of course, I've always been a fan, and we've had conversations about, you as a public figure. But I actually look forward to your Saturday morning show, and I don't even live in that area, so I can care less about half of the local things that are going on. But to hear you articulate them, and to hear you discuss them, and to hear you get into things, and the way that you handle callers, people who call the show, which we sometimes don't get a lot of on Spooky Southcoast.
Right. Yep. As the phone starts ringing.
Yeah, I became a much bigger fan, and so I think that anyone who has the ability to should be listening to that, because it really is your personality, but on non-paranormal topics.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's the last time I'm kicking your butt tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And of course, it would be great if we had some of those character callers like we have in the morning every week on Spooky South. That's what we need.
Be careful what you
I was going to say, I hate to say this out loud. I'm going to instantly regret having said it, but we need J.C. Webster to start calling into this show like he called into Coast to Coast for all those years. And I know that J.C. is a Facebook friend, and I know that he has been feeling not so well lately, so I appreciate all the updates that his family's been giving us, and hopefully he gets better soon. Because as fun and as crazy as JC is, you know who I'm talking about, right, Chris? When I talk about JC,
of course I do.
And so hopefully he's getting well and getting better. Actually that call dropped off, so apparently that person was like, oh, all he's doing is kissing Weisberg's butt. I'm not calling into this. But you can call in at 508-996-0500. 877-996-1420. And Chris, one of the titles that I've bestowed upon you over the years is I've called you an analytical folklorist, because you give us the stories, you give us the mythologies that are out there, but you never just give them to us at face value. You always can see the forest for the trees, you can see the recurring themes, and you can see a lot of the trends. And one of the things that I feel like you were always on the forefront of is the idea that as everybody was running around in the dark with, different devices that are lighting up and all the bells and whistles and spending entire paychecks on AA batteries, you were always looking at things, trying to get back to the story, trying to get back to what it is that made you go down this path. And I'll ask you to expound upon that in just a moment after we take this call, because I don't want him to drop off again. Good evening. You're on Spooky Southcoast with Chris Balzano. How are you? Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, hello. Hey, Tim. Hey, Chris.
What's going on?
How you doing?
Hey, I'm one of those Saturday morning guys. I haven't called in either show lately. I've been busy, Tim.
As long as you're well, that's all that matters.
I was saying earlier, I absolutely agree. When someone asks you something or brings up a topic on a Saturday mornings, if you don't know much about it, you're not sure, you acknowledge that right away. You do your homework real well. You do your research, and you're pretty open-minded. And when you're not sure, you lay that right out there. You don't try to blow smoke.
Well, thank you.
Blow smoke in people's eyes or ears.
That's the worst thing somebody can do in this chair, is to act like a know-it-all and act like they have all the answers. Because if you have all the answers, then people aren't going to want to talk to you. And I'm not here to lecture, and I'm not here to expound on things, and I'm not here to tell you what I think that you don't know. I'm here to facilitate a conversation between you and the other listeners, even though you're not always talking to each other directly. And that's what I see my job as.
I compliment you guys for your coverage, and I know some of your colleagues. I watched that Bridgewater Triangle show a few weeks ago on the cable.
Oh, wait, what'd you think?
I had a couple of my friends there, and they were, like, blown away.
Yeah, Aaron and Manny did a great job.
My friends were totally blown away, and I told them about your show. So maybe some of them will listen tonight.
Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you.
It was a really good show, and some of that stuff I knew because I lived in Norton and Mansfield and Taunton from 84 to 91. and I witnessed and heard noises like I've never heard before. And I spent a good amount of my life out in the ocean and saw strange things, but nothing like used to happen over there, especially toward like Easton and all that. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But thanks again, and you guys keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much for the call.
Bye-bye.
And I appreciate that very much, but please, people don't call in and give me compliments, because then I'm gonna, get a swelled head and get out of control, and either that or I'm gonna have to call my doctor and be like, is everything okay? Have you been telling people something that you haven't told me yet? But absolutely, Chris. I feel like you were kind of on the forefront of getting back to that story, and it's something that I got excited about myself, and I do get excited when we're on an investigation and when we're doing a Legend Trips event, and I see something happening, and I can see, some validation for something happening in what's coming through the devices. But that doesn't mean nearly as much as it means to me as reading a creepy story and then being able to just show up at the front door of the place where that story took place. And I just want to, see if you still feel the same way, if that's still what you find to be the most important part of going down this path.
I do it, and I think it's, there's a level of understanding that we don't have. Maybe we've lost it, or maybe we never really fully had it. And I sometimes feel that investigating clouds some of that, because there is that adrenaline rush, there is that excitement, there is that cutting off from what you're actually being there with all the equipment that, it complements your senses, but in other ways it tunnel visions you. And oftentimes we lose sight of the human touch of the paranormal, the human side of it, and the absolutely profound nature of these things that both freak us out and yet engage us and maybe teach us something about ourselves, but then also the way that they're told tells us something about where we are now, and that's the kind of stuff that's always fascinated me, and that's the kind of stuff that gets lost in the seduction of the investigation, where it is this proof of you're trying to validate yourself being out there. You're trying to validate the impressiveness of the technology and understand something that may or may not be understandable. And when you start to do that, and that's what you start to consume yourself with, you lose sight of some very interesting things. I always use the example of one of the first conferences I spoke at, people having this very heated debate about what an EVP was saying, and no one taking a step back to be like, dude, you just got someone's voice on that, someone that wasn't in the room. Can we sit back and acknowledge for a moment that that's profound in some way? And so it's that kind of getting back to it and kind of understanding, every culture has its own level of obsession with death and with the afterlife.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed about it, and you can tell me if you feel the same way, but one of the things that I've noticed is that when you disconnect yourself from that aspect of it, when you disconnect yourself from the story and you're all about the data, it lends itself way too easily for this, quote-unquote expert mentality, where it almost becomes something as if you feel you've mastered it, and you feel like it's become known because you're trying to quantify it in front of you, as opposed to, when you're not in terms of, when you're not all about the data collection, you're there just for the experience still can remain overwhelming.
Right, especially when you consider that, what are we trying to capture? What proof do we have that this is a successful way of touching the other side? Or more importantly, of touching all of the other side. Maybe there's a certain level of paranormal that can be examined. I was talking to Mike Markowitz last weekend, who was just I just think the greatest guy, forget investigator, everything. It's just, it changes me every time I talk to him. And we were talking about a case that I had after I moved down to Florida, and I had corresponded, and I passed it off to him because I couldn't do anything, and I knew he would be the perfect person. And he said, now this is Mike Markowitz, so if your listeners know him, it's the guy can go into a Taco Bell and get EVP. And he said that he was in this house, which has an extraordinary level of activity. And he was there for, however many sessions, however many hours, and he got almost nothing. And the first thing I thought of was, because it doesn't want you to know it. What's there is deeper than just a ghost or something. I mean, from all the stories. And then secondly, it was the family's a liar. Because I had worked with this family and I was pretty sure that everything that they were telling me was truthful. And so I think that that when we become an investigative mindset, that story, that woman's story, that family story gets lost. And yet there were some pretty impactful things that happened and changed the dynamics of the family, changed the way that they looked at the world. For her, changed her opinion on religion. Yet that can get lost if you look and say, well, one of the best EV people I know, he didn't get anything. And so, an expert or someone who's submerged in this and gets at it everywhere they go would very easily be able to say, well, if I didn't get anything, there's nothing to be gotten, as opposed to looking at the whole big picture of what might have been going on there.
Well, I mean, Moniz, from your perspective, I mean, you're a scientist. You've been working in science for almost all of your adult life, and for you might be looking at something that is a mystery to you, something that you don't quite understand the nuts and bolts of how it works and why it works, and so you conduct experiments and you try to break it all down and figure out why it does work. You try to figure out why this does happen, why this certain reaction might take place, for example.
Or why something doesn't happen.
And so once you start breaking that down and actually experimenting and figuring it out why, does that original circumstance that first led you to pursue why it happens, does that lose any mystique for you, or do you just gain a different type of respect for what it is that's happening?
Well, I definitely gain a different type of respect. I mean, if you want to take the subject of EVPs, like I said, most EVP recorders are shielded against outside radio signals and stuff like that because they're actually mandated to by law.
And otherwise, we wouldn't want to use them because otherwise we'd be the Pittsburgh Steelers listening to the Patriots radio broadcast from the sideline.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
We'll leave that right where that is. But the point being is that all things being equal, if the equipment is working the way it's supposed to and we understand the best we do about the physics of it and stuff like that, the only explanation you got is some energy made it into your recording system. You and I can, and everybody else can argue what that energy was that generated it, but all of us will agree that there is something there. There was something that was recorded.
And even if it turns out to be some sort of, man-made or something else, some sort of frequency cross, you want to figure out what that is because that's not supposed to happen.
Correct.
And Chris, I think that is something that a lot of people don't realize happens to them is as they're getting into the nuts and bolts and the why, and they think they figured out the why. It doesn't give them any kind of new respect for it, or if it does, they don't understand that that's what it is. They just feel like now they are an expert and now they know everything, and that's dangerous because I feel like when you feel like you've mastered it, you can it's very easy to no longer respect it. It's very easy to no longer appreciate it.
And I think that, it becomes, what's the next bigger piece of evidence I can get? And so there's a disappointment when you don't get something that beats what you got last time. And so therefore I think there's an overlooking of, like, just the amount of respect that you have to do that in the first place. Like, the amount of respect that you're talking or potentially talking to someone who has died, or that you're maybe understanding some kind of science that goes along with this religious aspect of it, or and so you stop losing that respect for that, and it becomes, that voice was there, but I didn't get this bigger one, or how about this louder one, whereas the louder one might not be the more significant one. And so it becomes a chase of the bigger piece of evidence and not, an understanding of what that evidence might mean.
Well, I think, too, that one of the differences that I've noticed from the time that I started paying attention to how people investigate to now is, back in those days, it was very much centered around what people were seeing on television. And even to some degree, that's still happening. It's still very much centered around what people are doing on television. But I see a lot of people are basing the way they investigate on how other people have had success and how they feel like other people have gotten results, and there's less people stepping out on a limb and trying new and different techniques that I've been noticing. I just, when people send me a story or they send me an experience and they're explaining to me exactly how it came about, and I'm thinking to myself, but you should, at that point, you should have tried this. And I realize that there is no logical next step for a lot of people, because for a lot of people, it's almost like, Moniz, when you write a lab report and you have a procedure of how to follow it, they're following that lab report, which, 10 years ago we argued is what they have to do. You have to follow a standard procedure and everything, but I think that we're realizing now over time that, yes, you should follow a way of operating and a way of doing business, but sometimes you also have to try different things to try and see if you get different results.
Well, in science, yeah, you have standard operating procedures, or you follow what's called a protocol.
Mhm.
Everything's explained out step by step, every little detail, and you follow these lockstep, procedures, and this is what the end result is supposed to be. And okay, that works fine in things like chemistry and other things, because we pretty much know what the reactions are going to be for the most part. But when you're dealing with the unknown, I mean, that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. And the only thing you can really do in terms of science to it is, map out how you're going to do it, the procedure.
Well, one of and Chris, this is something that I think is a big difference from the way that I felt probably when we first started talking about this 10 years ago. But what you're talking about is how you investigate and how you analyze and experiment with something that is a scientific pursuit. You follow those standard operating procedures to be able to log the data and to be able to avoid contaminating the data and to make sure that you're getting repeatability.
Right.
Would you follow a standing operating procedure if you were having a conversation with somebody? Or would you allow that conversation to be organic? Would you go into a conversation with a person one-on-one, not an interview, but a conversation one-on-one with a set list of certain questions that you're going to ask that person and certain topics that you're going to discuss? Or would you just say hello and see where it goes from there?
Well, you have the social sciences like psychology and stuff like that do follow that type of format. It all depends. You can have a rigid, structured conversation to gauge somebody's.
Well, yes, you can, but I mean, how would you go about doing? Because you're a man of science, you actually will conduct an experiment.
All depends upon the topic and the person I'm dealing with.
Well, that's true too. But in general, though, you just go in.
I'll take it one step further, Tim. What would you do if you were on a date? Would you just follow this, well, this is what I've seen on TV shows and this has been successful? Or so just take it out of a conversation, do something that actually has like passion behind it, essentially, and a huge amount of emotion. Like, you wouldn't just date one person the same way that you dated another person.
Right. You have to kind of understand the situation and see where it goes. And that's what I think a paranormal investigation is anymore. I don't think anymore that it's a science experiment. I think that it's a conversation. And I'm not totally sure that it's a person on the other end of that conversation per se, because I still haven't made up my mind that a ghost is a dead person. But what I'm thinking is that I'm thinking that when you're conducting an investigation, you're trying to have that conversation, that interaction. You're not conducting an experiment. So it's okay. I mean, you want to be able to say what the protocols were in which you gathered that, but I would never want to go into it anymore with a rigid structure of how I'm going to do this, because that doesn't always work.
Okay, what you're talking about is dividing investigation into different styles. You have a professional style where, if you want to say you're using a scientific method, you follow these set procedures, and then you have the personal style. You're there for a personal interaction.
And which one works?
They both can work.
Exactly. That's why I think people need to keep that in mind when they're doing that. And I mean, Chris, I know that you've always had kind of that approach. I know that you went through a time when you were very scientific in the way that you approached it, but you've always seemed to be very conversational, for lack of a better word, in your approach.
Yeah, I mean, even when I always look back to when people kind of have a raised eyebrow when I say these things, like, well, you wrote a book about paranormal investigating and how to do it, and I kind of stress to them, yeah, but if you really read the book, it's pretty much like, here, this worked for this investigator, and this worked for this investigator, and this is the way that I did it, and hey, look how I got this information on it. And so I think that I was guilty of maybe relying too much on that during that era. But I think, even when I was doing that, it was still, well, why can't we mix old school with new school? Like, why can't we? Well, who's to say that dividing rods are any less significant in the field than something that is repeatable? Not that dividing rods aren't repeatable, but and so why should I not trust my instincts? Why should I not rely on things that are not scientific at all, that are my emotions? When I first investigated, I was so much more in tune with the way that my body was reacting to a certain situation. And I would say when I was interviewing people who had experiences, I was much more in tune than I became listening to their story, because I wasn't thinking about, well, how can I prove that what they're saying really happened? Okay, so they're telling me this story. Can I get in that house and investigate it? Which it became for a while. And as opposed to just listening and being like, what is my instinct telling me about this? What is my gut telling me about this? And when I would say the word gut, as the field evolved, it became so much more of like, oh, roll your eyes, like, oh, you got a feeling, that, and it's felt like if you read the reviews for Dark Woods, some people are like, there's nothing scientific about this book. And I'm like, well, it's not a science book. It's a story. It's a collection of people's experiences. And so when I say, there's not necessarily a way to record the feeling of someone looking at you. You can say there might be some kind of change in the environment that you can maybe capture on a device, but the fact of the matter is that people, are fine one place and then they move a few feet and all of a sudden they get this feeling that they're being watched. And whether that's them or whether that's the environment, something has physically changed in them that's worth noting, even if you can't record it.
And that's the other thing too, is generally when you're conducting something under a scientific method and you're trying to have a controlled environment, you want the person to not have as much influence over it as possible. You want to try and keep yourself distant. And I know that the law of observation means that you can't, but still, at the same time, I did a whole lecture on that at SalemCon about how it's impossible to remove yourself from that. But I feel like this is one thing, the paranormal, that you can't remove yourself from, that you have to be part of it. A paranormal experience does not happen in an empty building with nobody around to experience it. I firmly believe that. I think that things can take place.
Run that by me again?
I don't think that a paranormal experience happens in a building by itself if there's nobody around to experience it.
I got plenty of videos from security.
But that's because there was an act of observation there. There was an act of observation
There's also been
involved.
plenty of, I'll give you good examples. Lizzie Borden, things have been moved around with nobody in the house.
But it was geared toward you observing that, is what I'm saying. If we didn't pay attention to it, if we didn't care about it, it would never take place.
So you're saying a building...
I think it's hard to say that the living is not a tumbler in the lock of the paranormal. Like, I think that whether it's the right combination of energies in a house, you see a house be completely still for one group of people but not for another. You see seasons change the activity in a place. And I think in the same way, investigators being there acts as another one of those tumblers. Like, some investigators get everything they need, and some investigators get nothing, and nothing happens. And I think part of it has to do with, your place on that entire canvas.
I look at what Tim's saying is like, if there's a ghost in the house and nobody's there to see it, is it still haunted?
No, it's not a tree falls in the woods type of argument. Yeah. It's more of a if we couldn't have that connection, that communication with the paranormal, there would be no reason for it to exist, no reason for it to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you can, if all of a sudden everybody was a hardened skeptic, and nobody believed in the fact that it could happen, it would go away.
I don't. How many skeptics wind up becoming believers because of experiences they have?
But still, there's still somebody out there that believes, and I think that belief is what gives it power. It's not, look at, all right.
You're talking the Tulpa thing.
No, I'm talking about, like, how many people still believe in, ancient Mesopotamian gods. You know what I mean? So
hey, Zoroaster is a cool religion.
I understand, and I know that you're a fan. But what I'm saying is eventually it would become a non-belief if nobody believed. And if it becomes a non-belief, then it's not happening. But what it is because there's always, there has to be somebody that's willing to accept that and be willing to dub that paranormal for it to keep happening. Do you understand kind of where I'm going, Chris? I know I'm not really articulating it well.
I understand. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. I mean, I think that I think I see what Matt is saying is that people have had their belief system changed based on on experiences that they've had.
So
I mean, I think
if nobody believed in the paranormal at all, if nobody believed in the existence of a ghost, would a ghost still try to put itself out there, and would we still have these things happening? I feel like the belief is the fuel for what makes it happen. The fact that there is somebody somewhere that is willing to believe it is what's giving it the power.
Well, I think that they form what it is that they're experiencing, but I think that there still would be paranormal things that would happen. I mean, a residual haunting might not rely on interactions for it to be observable. I think that might. I think, and I firmly believe that ghosts change who they are based on, and the Ouija board's a great example of this, change who they are based on your belief system and what they think that you want to hear to continue to exist for you. But I don't necessarily think that, I think that you could have the paranormal still in a bubble.
Oh, yeah, that's in a bubble. That's a good way to put it. Well, one of the things that I've noticed, we're going to take a break here for a second, but one of the things that I've noticed has become a trend in the world of the paranormal is the way that people interact with each other, both good and bad, but that has become more important to them than what it is that they're actually investigating. It's more about your place in the paranormal than it is about the work that you do. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on that a little bit, and we'll take your calls as well. 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. Back in a moment on Spooky South Coast here on the new 1420 WBSM.
Today, more than ever, Americans need a means to protect their life savings. Birch Gold Group offers peace of mind for your nest egg through a rollover to an IRA backed by physical gold. Take advantage of the long-term stability that gold provides by investing in a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, the precious metal IRA specialists. Call Birch Gold Group today at 888-999-5191 and receive their free information kit on gold. Call 888-999-5191. That's 888-999-5191.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. You see me around the neighborhood, and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm one out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger. Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me. We are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
As you're hearing this ad, so are thousands of potential customers. Advertising on WBSM works. But don't take our word for it. Listen to what this satisfied customer had to say.
Hi, this is Kim Kamara. When you're in the market for a bicycle, visit Yesteryear Cyclery in New Bedford. We specialize in all kinds of bicycles, sales and service. If you're looking to market your business, I recommend WBSM. If you plan to grow your business in the next year, choose WBSM. Today's marketplace demands more frequency than ever to break through the clutter. And targeting the right customers that have that money to spend is very important to our business, and WBSM brings us those customers. We recently ran a campaign targeting a single bicycle model, and our sales of that one bike increased over 35% in 1 month. We noticed the difference in phone calls and store traffic when we advertise with WBSM.
Let us help you grow your business. For more information on advertising on WBSM, call 508-999-6690. That's 508-999-6690. Or find us online at WBSM.com.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-319-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-319-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-319-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
To the person who doesn't like to be put on the spot, we don't get why the world needs an instant answer either. Decaf or regular, will you marry me, paper or plastic, it's all just too much. That's why CarMax will appraise your car in about 30 minutes, and our offer is good for a full week. No pressure to make a decision, just walk out the door and sleep on it. Or don't. We'd never pressure you to walk or sleep, and definitely not at the same time. Way too dangerous. CarMax, the bright side of car buying.
The new 1420 WBSM, where mornings mean live local talk. Start your day with Phil Paleologus till 10. Then Brian the Cab Driver and Brian's Beat 10 to noon. New Bedford News, New Bedford Talk, delivered daily on the new 1420 WBSM and WBSM.com.
Today, more than ever, Americans need a means to protect their life savings. Birch Gold Group offers peace of mind for your nest egg through a rollover to an IRA backed by physical gold. Take advantage of the long-term stability that gold provides by investing in a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, the precious metal IRA specialists. Call Birch Gold Group today at 888-999-5191 and receive their free information kit on gold. Call 888-999-5191. That's 888-999-5191.
As an entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forward callers to your mobile phone. You can even get voicemails transcribed. Join over 150,000 small businesses who stay connected with Grasshopper. See how it works at grasshopper.com. The entrepreneur's phone system.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-249-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-249-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-249-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. You see me around the neighborhood, and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm one out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger.
Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help.
Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me. We are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-249-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-249-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-249-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
Today, more than ever, Americans need a means to protect their life savings. Birch Gold Group offers peace of mind for your nest egg through a rollover to an IRA backed by physical gold. Take advantage of the long-term stability that gold provides by investing in a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, the precious metal IRA specialists. Call Birch Gold Group today at 888-999-5191 and receive their free information kit on gold. Call 888-999-5191. That's 888-999-5191.
Pat Boone here. Would you invest your life savings in a stock or bond, knowing it returns zero reward, while also putting your money at serious risk? Well, according to Don't Bank on It, your bank account is worse than this. It's a high-risk investment. In fact, most depositors end up with a negative return after subtracting real-world inflation. Today, your bank deposits are in danger from 20 major risks, from cyber criminals, money-hungry politicians, and too-big-to-fail bankers. So don't bank on it. The unsafe world of 21st century banking shows you how to save your savings and create a financial future you can bank on. Call now, 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646 for a free copy of Don't Bank on It, courtesy of Swiss America, or visit online at SwissAmerica.com. Call 800-289-2646, 800-289-2646.
Welcome back to Spooky Southcoast. Tim WEISBERG, along with science advisor Matt Moniz. And our guest tonight is Chris Balzano, the content director, previously, currently, and forever, of Spooky Southcoast. And one of the changes, Chris, since you've last been with us, is the unlicensed music, which helps us out with the YouTube and all the other things that we want to do with the show. So we welcome people to submit any unlicensed music to us that you've created. If you want to let us use it on the show, just send it to us, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. And, of course, we'll be sure to mention where it came from. That of course, is DJ 4AM, Labsynth Sailor Mort. So, and there's a lot of great stuff from him as well. You can find it on SoundCloud and all over the internet, too. So check it out. And thank you to everybody for that has donated music already. I do want to mention this one tweet, Chris, that, you know, as normally goes during the show, one of the things that we try to do with the show now is we try to live tweet during the show using the hashtag SpookyLive. And if somebody says something particularly profound on the show or particularly interesting, you know, we'll tweet it out. Because for one thing, it puts it out there for a conversation piece on social media. And for another thing, it makes people say, well, what are they talking about? I'm going to tune in. So, you know, I've been putting it out there. And I kind of ended up in a little bit of a side discussion going on with former Ghost Hunters cast member Chris Williams about just the nature of belief, because she's watching The Conjuring on Sci-Fi. But we went into an interesting discussion about belief. And this one gentleman, Jason, in talking about faith and faith in an afterlife, he had a great point. And I think this can be applied to the paranormal overall. He said he figures it's a 50-50 shot. He figures he's safer to believe because then he has nothing to lose if he's wrong. And I think that that's kind of the approach that a lot of people go into investigating with, is they go into it with the, you know, the idea that if it's real, at least I can explain and justify why I've been putting all my time into this. But then the problem with that is you end up with confirmation bias. If you go out and spend $1,000 on paranormal equipment, then when you walk into your first paranormal investigation, you're going to want to have something come out of that that's paranormal. And are you seeing that as much now, in just being kind of on the periphery of things for the last little bit? But are you seeing that as much now as it was prevalent, you know, 5-10 years ago?
I mean, I think it is. You know, I although one thing I would add to that is that I've seen a lot more on social media a shift to, I'm excited to go on this investigation, we're going to have fun. So I think for a while it was especially of like, this is not fun. If you're smiling, then you're a legend tripper, not an investigator. And so I've seen somewhat a lightening up of people that are investigating, but I do think that you know that confirmation bias thing you're talking about is and I would even go so far as to say when you're working within the dynamics of a group, that you almost have to justify being part of the group. Like, what are you adding to the group? And so I think that part I'm still seeing being a driving force, or at least a workable force with people that are out there.
Because, you know, when you did this, when you first got involved in this, it was still kind of in its infancy of being we'll call it a social movement to some degree. I mean, I know it's not an overwhelming social movement, but, you know, it's there. There's an undercurrent of it in society now, and it wasn't as prevalent as it was, as it is now. And now the difference is, you know, you're seeing people that are getting involved in it for a different reason. Now it's becoming less for a lot of people about the pursuit of what they're pursuing and more about who and how they're pursuing it with. You know, it's become more about interpersonal dynamics than it is about, you know, any kind of fact gathering.
You know, I think it would be interesting to, because I know that you are connected with a lot of people, and I know that in the past you've asked questions of, you know, what place would you most like to investigate, and you've asked questions of, you know, what investigator would you most like to investigate with? I wonder if we change that question to, where would you like to invest? You can either investigate this great place, or you can investigate with this person you've seen on TV. And I wonder which direction people would go in.
So if you, like, say you gave them like a you know, a holy grail place to investigate.
Right.
And so I don't know, what would you? I mean, I know for you and I it'd be the Amityville house, but what do you think would probably be the place that most people would shoot for? Maybe like the White House.
Yeah, the White House, or, you know, there's still those, you know, those paranormal landmarks that people want that they can't get to, you know, like Gettysburg or or even Lizzie Borden's that I think people that still are on their like wish list, their paranormal bucket list.
So
Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, there are places that people still want to go to.
So if we put this out there on social media and said, would you rather investigate the White House with, would we say by yourself or with just a random team?
I don't know. I mean, would you rather go to your someplace on your paranormal bucket list, or investigate with your favorite paranormal investigator? Your favorite celebrity investigator.
All right, guys, I'm gonna put that out there right now. Actually,
All right, I don't know how to phrase that the right way, but I don't write it or anything like that. You're the writer, so. But
that's not true. You wrote at least one book that I can think of.
Oh, only one book that matters, right?
Haunted Objects, Stories of Ghosts in Your Shells. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm, I think it's, there's a reason why that's the one my students always want to read instead of my book. So
it's just because of the doll on the cover. That's why. It's just the creepy doll.
I know.
Great marketing idea.
But I think people would rather. They would. I mean, when I say I've done this, I've done that, I've been to this place, I've done this. Let me tell you this amazing story. And the inevitable question is, well, have you been on any of the shows? Or even, like, well, have you investigated with this person? I'm like, I gotta be honest, I don't even know who that person is. So I think that there is a level of I would rather investigate with someone who I know, who I like totally admire, than I would rather go to this place that I'm really fascinated by. So I'd be interested to see how the responses would be.
Well, it's out there now. It has just been tweeted out using the hashtag SpookyLive. Would you rather investigate the #1 spot on your paranormal bucket list or with your favorite TV investigator? And people are going to write it back. A lot of people are going to write back and be like, well, which TV investigator? It's like, no, I said your favorite. No, it's not America's favorite. Your favorite.
Then you're going to get the occasional wise guy that'll say both.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Why can't I do both? I can go to this event and do both. Okay.
Because this is a sociological experiment.
Yes. It's not a paranormal name drop. It's not a chance for you to put up a picture of who you were hanging out with last weekend.
It's not marketing for the next Legends Trip event.
Right. That being said, we have a great event coming up Friday night on the USS Salem. Tickets still available. Just go to legendtrips.com. But no, I mean, really, that is exactly, it's a defining line of why you're involved in this. And it shows either you're into this because you want to get out there and have the experiences and be at these places and do the work, or it's because you want to hobnob and rub elbows with the people that you see on television. And I used to think that one was good and one was bad, and now I don't care either way about either one. Whatever makes you happy and whatever makes you want to keep discussing this and whatever makes you want to keep learning more about it is fine by me, just so long as, nobody's trying to position themselves as being more important than anybody else, no matter which side they fall on the spectrum.
Right, and I think that one of the things that was driving me away from the field was talking to people who had gained too much of a paranormal vocabulary, which always felt painted to me because I'm like, okay, well, then obviously you know things that are going on and you watch TV and, can you come out and, this person, can you bring them with you? But then also, like their understanding of what they were telling me for their stories were fitting a paranormal television show narrative.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to give me those first 10 minutes of the episode that explained the history of what was going on in the story, and then okay, now come and investigate. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, let me go on this. And they wouldn't understand the tangents, like why I was asking these questions, because they hadn't seen anything about that on the television show. And so the pool of people who are experiencing things was being tainted. Because and I'm still of the opinion of your art's your art, man. You want to investigate the way you want to investigate. You want to investigate, that's perfectly fine. But what I was seeing was that even the people who were now contacting me had knowledge that maybe was changing the way that they should be perceiving what was going on in their house, or something that they had experienced even in the past. And they were now kind of developing it and presenting it to me as if it were, the first 15 minutes of a show, as opposed to just telling me what happened to them,
Well, I can tell you one thing. One thing you're going to learn in coming back into this role, Chris, is I'm not the same bitter old man about the paranormal that I was on Spooky Crossroads. You know, I've kind of decided that I have to let a lot of that go and not really get worked up on it because, first of all, you know, it doesn't really impact me. And second of all, the Legend Trips thing, you know, as much as we joke around about the promotion of it, and people understand, please understand that we promote it so heavily because it gives back to these places. And you know, when a paranormal group goes and rents out a place for the night and they pay the place $100 or $200, yeah, that helps, but it really just helps keep the lights on for the night. We're going to these places and helping to keep the lights on all winter, which is, you know, what we're trying to do with it and why we've raised about $26,000 so far for these places. But what has been the added benefit of doing all of these events is that I can see all aspects of why people are involved in this anymore, and I'm not looking through it through my own narrow focus anymore. Which, you know, you were always ahead of the curve with being able to do because you always looked at things as a bigger picture. But now that I see it and I realize, you know, everybody kind of has their place as long as nobody's stepping on anybody else. I'm basically become a paranormal libertarian, is what I am now.
I mean, I think the most cringeworthy expression, and there are a lot of cringeworthy expressions for me that I've let go of because people to this quantum, was always, well, we're in this for the same reason, you know, and that was like, well, no, really not. Like, some people are drawn in by wanting to understand this thing that's non-understandable. Some people like the adrenaline. Some people had something that in their own life they're trying to explain. Some people don't know why they are. They're just compelled to do. And so I really never was comfortable with that saying. And I totally agree with you. Like, I've become so much more, you know, I listen to, because now they're popping up on my Facebook memories, these old shows. And I'm like, well, some of them were good, and some of them were just kind of us going like, blah, 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 everybody's bad but us, which was really fun, and I think we needed to go through that phase to gain our voices. But I'm with you. I mean, it's if it's not impacting me, then I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure why I should care why you do what you do. But you know what? I'm kind of fascinated by the reason that people are doing it for different reasons. Like,
exactly.
That kind of amazes me more sometimes than the ghosts, because I think the study of the paranormal, the study of the spiritual, is a reflection of us as much as the ghosts that we experience.
And also, you know what it is? I think part of it is the ghosts are ghosts, but man, people are freaky. You know, like the people are way more interesting than the ghosts themselves. Well,
and if you want to see just how freaky people can be, put people in a room with Jeff Belanger and they just flip out.
Oh, I know. Oh, it's so weird, and especially when beer's involved. But so we have about a minute left here on the show. Again, thank you for joining us, Chris. Thank you for coming back and being part of the show once again. But I'm going to give you a little bit of an informal poll answer here. So far, we've had a few responses on Facebook, and they all are 100% toward gearing in their investigating in their favorite spot. And then some of them have been on Twitter. There's one that says they'd like to investigate with their favorite investigator, but then any place that they would go would be perfect. One person, Rhonda, you tried to go on the fence with it. She'd rather investigate her number one spot on her bucket list because she's already investigated with her favorite people. So there you go. All right, Chris, thank you for joining us. We're out of time, but we look forward to you being involved with us, and everybody out there, stay spooktacular.
New Bedford News, New Bedford Talk. This is